What's up, DawgNation? Good evening. I'm Jeff Sentell. This is Before the Hedges from DawgNation.com, brought to you by Kroger. Folks, come on in. Look at that. We got hardwood back here today. Who knows what it'll be next week? Who knows if it'll look as good as it does right now next week? But if you guys hadn't been around Before the Hedges in a while, we've spruced the place up a little bit. We're in the studio, got a new look, got some amazing new graphics. We got a great show for you today as well. As the headline on your feed suggests, Georgia is planning to receive, or the number one wide receiver in the country, Jeremiah Smith out of Opelika, Florida, is planning to visit Athens. Now, it sounds like he's planning multiple trips. That's what he told a lot of reporters on scene at the Under Armour Orlando Regional this past Sunday. So when we talk about what's going on right now with Georgia recruiting, that's what we do here on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. And certainly, folks, an Ohio State commitment, everybody knows how well that program recruits receivers. When an Ohio State commitment plans to visit Georgia, he talks up multiple trips, potentially one in the next couple of weeks, maybe this weekend. He's planning to take an official visit to Georgia with a lot of other places. He plans to visit FSU potentially as well. So right there, that to me is some tremendous news right now on the recruiting trail. When you think about it, guys, you bring up, and this is what everybody was looking for with the potential golden era of Georgia recruiting, the Ming Dynasty or whatever Kirby's trying to build in Athens. You think about this. What does back-to-back national championships and great recruiting classes do? Builds a surge of momentum. And what else could be more proper for a surge of momentum in 2024 for the number one recruiting class in the nation to have strong interest? We can label that strong interest and not seem like a weatherman that's missing the mark. Strong interest from the nation's number one quarterback in Dylan Raiola, and also the nation's number one wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith. That's the first topic, Jeremiah Smith, on our Big Five. You guys know we come out the gate throwing punches about what we think are the biggest stories, the hot topics right now in Georgia recruiting. Let's start off right now with our Big Five with number one. That's Jeremiah Smith. So you got things to look at here with Jeremiah Smith. He's about 6'3", 180 pounds. He's one of those number one receivers in the country that would be the number one receiver in the country in a lot of years. I think even the folks at On3 even speculated over the last week during the Combine that they thought that Jeremiah Smith might even be on draft boards if he was coming out in the 2023 NFL draft. Jeremiah Smith, now he's from South Florida. He's got that South Florida speed. We mentioned he's an Ohio State commitment. He's connected to five-star quarterback Dylan Raiola because he's planning to visit when Raiola is in Athens as well. And those two got to know each other very well when they were both committed to Ohio State over the last year in roughly the 8 or 9 months that Raiola was committed to the Buckeyes. He says he'll give Georgia an official visit and plans multiple visits. He also told reporters on 3.com that Georgia is recruiting him the hardest right now, as hard as any school out there. He's 6'3", 185, and the guy's got numbers too. Last year, 20 touchdowns as a marked man, 58 catches for 1,073 yards. That's an 18.5 yards per catch average. How do you land Jeremiah Smith? I think it goes hand in hand with Dylan Raiola. If Georgia secures a commitment from Dylan Raiola, he just took a visit to USC this past weekend. A lot of that is to go train in Huntington Beach and in LA and in SoCal with 3D QB Sports. I believe that's where his trainers are at. He lives in Arizona, but he gave USC another unofficial visit as well. Look for Georgia to get an official. And as we said last week on Before the Hedges, look for Georgia to get a visit in the month of March as well. I know Georgia is really planning a huge weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend when spring practice starts up. That's when you'll see those big visitor lists pop up. So really interesting stuff there to watch right now with Jeremiah Smith and Dylan Raiola. You want to see what he can do? I mean, I think this is the definition of Randy Moss and some guy. Look at the size, look at the frame, go up and get it, and then look at him trying to get hard to get him on the ground. Great hands, lots of one-handed catches on his highlight tape. He looks every bit the part of the nation's number one receiver in the country. And I know that's something that my buddy Brandon Adams would love to see, the five-star wide receivers, the number one receiver in the country, choosing the Dogs when he's currently committed to Ohio State. That's number one. Number two to think about here, I think we don't probably – one of the things when we try to do quality control here on Before the Hedges, I don't think we talk about this young man enough. I'm talking about KJ Bolden, actually the number one rated recruit in the state of Georgia right now, number 3 overall according to most of the polls. And KJ at Buford High School is actually one of the 3 recruits that are rated a 5-star by all the services. Now, here's what we know about Khalil KJ Bolden. Number one, he's really fast. Track team guy, can play wide receiver, can play safety. He's currently rated as the nation's number 1 safety. He's undecided, number 1 player in Georgia, number 3 in the nation. He has an official visit set that he's established with Ohio State. Now, in the month of March and April, he's going to be busy. He plans to give visits to Arkansas, Auburn, FSU, South Carolina, and Oregon. FSU's a school that Bolden has liked for some time. You see right here, he's been to Georgia more than any other school, and he looks to commit prior to his senior season. Now, our good friend Sam Pittman, he hosted KJ Bolden this past weekend, and check this out. You're going to notice KJ Bolden in full gear. If you want to see what's different than the photo shoot that you see a lot of times, well, look at this video we have right here of KJ Bolden. He's in the DJ booth. He's in a recording studio. He's got some Atlanta area, Arkansas signees around him. You see there's T. Will. Travis Williams used to be at Auburn, used to be at Central Florida. Now he's a co-defensive coordinator at Arkansas. Great reputation for being a recruiter. Look right there. You got KJ Bolden. I see Malachi Singleton, who went to North Cobb there in the background. Had a great time. He had a great visit to Arkansas, and KJ Bolden has said, he's been quoted as saying that he will give more stronger consideration to Arkansas now in the future. So that was a great visit for Arkansas. What does this mean for Georgia? I think Georgia's still very much in the mix for KJ Bolden, as you'll see on the top targets list. KJ is a guy that I think they're now keeping track. I think On3 keeps track of visits for every recruit. And I still think, I believe it's double digits now for KJ Bolden and how he's visited the Dogs more than any other school. He's told me many times that Georgia feels like home. That's a quick update with a very busy spring. Folks, those are mostly all unofficial visits as well. Speaking of unofficial visits, I think you guys are listening. You want to know what's number 3 on our Big 5? This is time for our DawgNation conversation on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger, and it is a good one. It is with 4-star defensive lineman Justin Greene out of Mountain View High School, currently the number 66 overall prospect in the country. He's committed to play in the All-American Bowl out in Texas. And get this, guys, Georgia just offered him on January the 30th, but it always sounds like the Dogs are going to get multiple visits, including an official visit, along with a lot of other schools. You wonder how the Dogs are in it now with Justin Greene and how he really kind of transformed himself into a big-time college prospect. Let's have a look and let's have a listen right now on Before the Hedges. It's remarkable how you have changed your evaluation and your recruitment. You went from 215, rising junior, in 4 months to 250? How did you do that, and why did you do that?
Honestly, the how was just, I was just eating, and I would eat some more, and when I got full, just eat again after that.
How many meals a day would that be?
It would just be the normal amount of meals, but I would just eat like a lot in those sittings. And then, like I said before, I would drink some protein shakes after, try to help get my protein up. And the why behind it was definitely, I knew I could be better than where I was currently, like before. And then you see the results fast, especially like I went to an all-star game, that was a Georgia Elite Classic, and I definitely feel the difference, the little 10 pounds I put on already. But I honestly just like working out too, I like hitting the weights.
And how did that change the way college recruiters saw you? Almost like you went from a group of 5 to anywhere in the country. Did you feel that coming? Did you know that would happen, or was it nice? You just wanted to see what you would get if you put on more weight?
Actually, I forgot to tell you, my coaches were telling me some people were saying I was just too small, I guess. So I was like, they're not going to have to worry about that anymore if I'm, put on all this weight. So, yeah.
Georgia's the in-state school. Tell me the genesis of how they offered you and, like, maybe how you feel about the Dogs now.
It was actually I was in weight training. Like you came and Coach P pulled me out and he said, Coach Scott was on the phone, and I already kind of knew what was going on because why would he need to call me in the middle of the day? But yeah, we get on the phone. He offers me, and no, he seemed. I'm pretty sure when we talked before, he said, they were behind. They're gonna try to get their 24s, and that basically is exactly what he did. They got done with their season. A couple weeks later, he calls me, comes down probably a couple of days before, because I think going to Buford, the other schools around here, and yeah, he offered me 2-3 days later.
What does an offer from the two-time national champions mean? We said earlier it kind of validates that you're pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a big accomplishment because, Georgia, Kirby Smart's defense, they know what D linemen look like and, what it takes.
It's the single biggest factor, you think, or the main ingredients of your eventual recruiting decision?
Honestly, it'd probably just be a combination of, how good the overall team is and, how I like their school, the classes or majors they provide.
When people watch you play, what do you hope they pick up on that matters to you?
Honestly, they come to one of our games. I just want them to see that I'm worth my ranking. I'm worth my stars. I'm not just hype.
Which schools are in it, and what are you thinking about in terms of official visits right now?
I would say South Carolina, Auburn, Georgia, LSU, and Duke. I'm going to try to get down there, maybe spring practice, maybe unofficial, official visits, but yeah.
What do all those schools have in common for you?
I like the defense they run, and I like the coaches, the relationships they're building with me.
Do the Georgia coaches and Coach Scott, does he tell you what he likes in your game, why he offered, and how you would fit into his defensive line?
I remember this part specifically when one time he was here and you said that they're, what do they call it, the jack, whatever, the outside linebacker, and their DNs kind of are in the same meeting room, so he thinks I could be kind of a hybrid player, play both.
Justin, when you think about your dreams and what motivates you in this game, what is it? What are those things?
My dreams, definitely to be a starter, when I get to whatever college I pick, and eventually, when the time comes, get my name called at the draft.
Do you have an idea? How will you, this is a good thought here. I'm curious to hear your answer. How will you balance the day one schools that were there for you when you were 220 and that loved you when you were 220 versus the big schools in the country, the national names that now like the player you are now and their evaluation of you changed or they finally noticed you? How do you balance
honestly,
all that?
I'm going to be honest, I kind of don't balance it. I don't know if this is bad to say, but I'm kind of only focused on the big schools now, the ones that are good, right now.
The ones that can get you where you need to be, right?
Yeah.
They call him JG here in Mountain View. I think he's power cleaning 300, bench pressing 330, squatting 500. I hope I did justice to most of your lifts right there. Big time riser in the state of Georgia. He's wearing an LSU shirt. He just got back from LSU. Justin, thank you for your time today.
Of course.
All right, guys, we're back there. That's Justin Greene. I know, folks, I can hear Brandon Adams saying in the back of my head, Jeff, why didn't you blur out that LSU stuff? Reason why he was all decked out in LSU gear is that he just took an unofficial visit to LSU this past weekend, so he was rocking some of their gear, showing some love to the Tigers. He sounds like he's going to give the Tigers an official visit. Duke, South Carolina, Auburn, Georgia as well. Multiple visits are coming there from Justin Greene to Georgia. Here's what I really like about him. He was a two-time all-region performer and then decided, in a pretty good region in Gwinnett County, and he decided that wasn't good enough. It wasn't big enough. He wanted to get better. He put on about 40 pounds in the bulk of about 4 months prior to his junior year, and he was really a different player. South Carolina and Auburn are really in it there for Greene simply because they've been recruiting him for the longest. They've kind of been more like his day ones. And, schools like Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, all the big fish, all the biggest fish are now, very interested in Justin Greene. Really like a lot of things about his story. Folks, stuff that you will not see on his recruiting links or his recruiting page. The guy blocked 6 field goals as a junior last year for Mountain View. I think he blocked 4 in 4 straight games, just pressured, penetration, getting his arms up, the way they attack gaps and seams in their kick block unit. But very rarely, that's one of those stats you very rarely don't hear a lot about in terms of a one defensive lineman, especially one that's only like 6'4", blocking 6 field goals in a season. That's an uncommon stat. One of the things we want to talk about today on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. Obviously, got to say thanks to Kroger for all they do sponsoring our show each and every year, each and every week for 7-8 years now. Go digital, guys. You can save even more with Kroger. Create an account on the Kroger app or website and start saving big with exclusive digital coupons. You can find that at www.kroger or kroger.com/sign up to get started for all your digital coupon needs. That's a message right now from Kroger. What was on my mind, guys, when I was talking about uncommon and unheard of things? Let's get to number 4 in our big 4 right here. And this is a young man. We've written about him a lot on DawgNation.com already. This is David Sanders out of North Carolina. Providence Day School in Charlotte. He's the number 1 overall prospect in the country. Folks, when I saw him last June, when I went to his high school to see Jaden Davis and to see Chris Peel, when I saw him for the first time, I just kind of thought, I'm probably looking at one of the best players I will ever scout, I will ever see, I will ever evaluate, I will ever cover. And that was before he's starting to grow into his body, grow into himself. Let's check out the intel file here on David Sanders. First of all, got some video, bringing more video this week. Appreciate the work by Michael Carvel behind the glass. Folks, that is a broad jump of 10 feet, 2 inches. That is a school record, 6'7", 260 pounds. David Sanders is a 5-star offensive tackle. Could be a 5-star left tackle, could be a 5-star edge, could be a 5-star defensive end, could be a 5-star tight end in the Darnell Washington phase or mold right there. There is David Sanders, they call him Big Skinny, setting the school record right there. Now, if that's not enough, I think we've got him hitting the power clean. Now, look at this, folks. This is astounding. 6'7", 260. Going to put on about 40 pounds, but look at him hit 320 pounds. That takes the top spot on the school records for the power clean, 320 pounds. Folks, there are very few humans on this earth that can power clean 320 pounds. That is the ultimate football player's lift. And then broad jump, 10 feet, 2 inches. Man, that's David Sanders Jr. Really like everything about him. And look at this. He's basically a modern-day Jim Thorpe decathlete. This is a shot put. That's a new school record of 51 feet and 5 inches. Folks, for comparative sake, Trayvon Walker, when he was a junior at the state championships in Georgia, a junior, Trayvon Walker, future number 1 overall pick, his shot put was around 48 feet, 48 and some change. Those were some of his best throws. Look at David Sanders going into his junior year. Look at that, 6'7", 260, school record shot put, 135 feet on the discus. He's going to visit Georgia this spring. He told us that when he was at Georgia last week, when he was at the Under Armour All-American Atlanta camp last week. Very fond memories. Family likes Georgia. Everyone likes Georgia. Really an astounding athlete right there. We will not cover 5 athletes in our time quite like David Sanders Jr. Very good reason why he's the nation's number 1 overall prospect for 2025. And, guys, our 5th thing here, and we couldn't have Before the Hedges, we couldn't have a Big 5 without some Georgia-Alabama intrigue, right? Well, look at this. Let me set the stages. Micah Debose, about 6'5", about 300 pounds. He's the nation's number 4 offensive tackle for 2025. already committed to Georgia, been loving Georgia for some time. Alabama has recently offered, and now they're coming after Micah Debose. Micah took a visit to Alabama this past weekend. He told me he's still solidly committed to Georgia, loves the relationship, loves everything he's built there with Georgia, loves the colors red and black. Georgia was in the door for him first. He really likes all those things, and he is still solidly committed to Georgia. But that's a very rare offensive tackle prospect, also in the same class as David Sanders that we highlighted just a second ago. But nation's number 4 offensive tackle, number 50 overall prospect. Looks like Georgia's going to have to hold on to a really prized prospect out of the Yellowhammer State. Guys, that's been the Big Five. Now, you know what that means as we move forward with Before the Hedges. It's time to talk about our top targets. It's time to look at the 2023 names. There's still 2 of those remaining. And also to look ahead to the top targets for the rest of the class in 2024 as well. First off, we're going to go to 2023. We told you guys last week that junior college prospect Michael Nakocha out of Tyler, Texas, Tyler Junior College in Texas, picked up a late offer from Georgia. Georgia's going to get an official visit from him. Georgia plans to use him kind of like in the Trayvon Walker mold if it works out. The path I see for him coming to Georgia, maybe some attrition happens on the defensive line with the transfer portal after spring camp. But, guys, he's about 6'5", 280, runs a 4.76. And I love this part about his story. He didn't get his first offer until December the 26th, just the day after Christmas in 2022. Wasn't long before all the offers started pouring in. That first offer was Prairie View A&M. Wouldn't be long. A couple months later, he has an offer from the national champions. Look for Michael to make his decision. And sometime this summer, he's going to take his visits. He will have 3 years to play 3 seasons wherever he chooses to play college football. A lot of big names are coming in, none bigger than the national champions, the back-to-back national champions. Of course, that first name also to think about there for the 2023 top targets, that is Deuce Robinson out of Pinnacle High School in Arizona. Will he play pro baseball? Will he play college baseball? Will he play college football? Look for Deuce to make his decision on college football by the end of this month, by April the 1st is what he has said. That's kind of like a framework when he wants to make his decision. Also being scouted and evaluated heavily for the pro draft, the 2023 MLB first-year player draft. Dodgers have worked him out. Padres have worked him out. He has great power, 6'6", about 220 pounds, wants to play both pro football and pro baseball. That's Deuce Robinson. Now moving forward with 2024, got some names to talk to you about right now. Let's take a quick look at the top remaining targets. Has some guys going up and down right there. See how we put Jeremiah Smith now, the Ohio State commitment, at number 11. Number 12 is another guy Georgia's going to have to fight really hard about, Colin Simmons, the nation's number 1 edge out of Texas. That's a Georgia-LSU battle potentially there. Sammy Brown, we say this every week. Sammy Brown still loves Georgia, still likes the chance to compete at Georgia, no matter how much Georgia is stacked up the depth chart. Clemson, Georgia, those are the names you hear a lot there. Dylan Stevenson out of Columbus High in Miami, great-looking prospect that also runs track. Papa Afua out of O'Day High School in Seattle, visited Georgia already 3 times. Look for him to come back again this summer. Cam Coleman, we talked about him as well last week. Cam Coleman is another guy that Georgia is recruiting very hard right now. Cam thinks that Georgia and Auburn are recruiting him the hardest. A.J. Harris, the Georgia freshman signee, is also already recruiting him to join him in Athens. Those 2 were former teammates. Aaron Butler, he's playing his official visit in April. DeMello Jones. DeMello could play a lot of positions on the back end for Georgia. I kind of look at him as a corner first and foremost out of Swainsboro. Daniel Calhoun, Georgia's going to get an official visit there. Texas, Alabama, those are kind of the primary schools along with Tennessee that he's set his official visits for. Mike Matthews, electric playmaker out of Parkview High School, another 5-star. Khalil KJ Bolden, we talked about him in our Big Five, visiting a lot of schools this spring, not visiting Georgia yet. No need to push the panic button there, folks, because I think he's seen a lot of Georgia. Nation's number 3 overall prospect, that's Bolden, the number 1 player in Georgia. Dylan Raiola, everybody wants a Raiola update each and every week on potentially Raiola before the Hedges. That's what sometimes all the questions and everybody thinks about right there. Raiola going to visit Georgia, going to take an official, as we spoke about in the beginning of our show, Jeremiah Smith wants to visit Georgia when Dylan Raiola is there as well. Raiola is planning to visit Georgia in the month of March. And also number one target on the list is Edric Houston. Edric just took a big visit to Oklahoma. Clemson is now a school you hear about. He's going to take a visit with soon right there. Georgia, Edric Houston. I just think Edric Houston, even though he's not rated as the best player in the state, I think he plays a rare position, the 5-tech position, that Georgia doesn't have a lot of guys that can do that and can do that well. He runs the 400 for his track team at Buford High School. He's a dynamite playmaker anytime you see him. He grew up in Atlanta. Longtime Dog fans are in his family. I think that's why it's going to be a fight for the Dogs to try and get Edric Houston. Ohio State's in the mix there as well. But for me, when you mix the need, you mix how well he plays the game and how both Georgia and Edric Houston feels about the Dogs, I think that's a guy that that's a reason why I keep him at number one on the top targets list, even with names like Raiola and Bolden and everybody else there as well. Next up, we've got 2024 class breakdown. I think that's our next slide we have up right now. That's how you look at what the current class looks like. Again, Georgia is ranked the number one recruiting class in the nation for 2024 and 2025. Currently have 10 commitments. Look at that. They have 3 5-stars committed. 2 of those are on defense, 6 out-of-state, 4 in-state, 6 offense, 4 defense. Georgia actually ranks, I believe I just might have said that, they rank number one nationally in 2024 and 2025 at this time. Check out everything you got right there with the recruiting breakdown. 7 of those guys are in the 2024 class, are in the SEC footprint. Pretty cool there, and I think we got a position-by-position breakdown slide right here where you take a look at what the class looks like right now. Look at that kind of yin and yang right there on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. Ryan Puglisi is the quarterback commitment. 2 running backs committed right now at this time, Nikar, Sokovie White. Nikar shut down his recruitment. We wrote about that. We talked about that on Before the Hedges last week. Landon Thomas been playing some 7-on-7s in Arizona recently. DeMarcus Riddick, a 5-star linebacker. Ellis Robinson, a 5-star corner. Look at that depth in the secondary. Jalen A.P. Hayward. Peyton Woodard, I believe, is the number 2 or number 3 safety in the country. Jalen Hayward is the number 3 safety in the country. And Ellis Robinson is the nation's number 1 cornerback prospect for 2024. Guys, that's the 2024 class breakdown. I want to tell you a little bit now about the guys just off the list. One of the names that I think is pretty prominent that probably would have made that top targets list if I went to 14 names, probably Justin Greene. That's a guy that, you saw in the DawgNation conversation this week. Really feels, strongly about Georgia going to give him multiple visits and everything else like that. Names that are just off the list for the Dogs. You've got Chauncey Bowens, who's committed to Florida. Heaven Brown Schuler. If I had to think about potential great fits right now for Georgia across the defensive line, the 2024 class, I think Heaven Brown Schuler would be one of those guys. He's out of Pace Academy. Lots of names on the list. Cam Davis, FSU commitment, 5-star commitment. It tells me that Georgia will still be in the end game of his recruiting process. He's going to give them an official visit. Fletcher Westphal is a guy out of Virginia. He's got a crazy busy schedule, the offensive tackle. Fletcher is actually going to try and visit something like 15 schools in the next 8 weeks. Crazy, but that's one of the most organized recruits I've ever been around. Other names on the list, you got Amari Jefferson, who plays with Will Muschamp's son at the Baylor School in Chattanooga. B.J. Gibson out of Wilcox County. Jonathan Daniels, a 5-star offensive tackle out of Pensacola. Those are kind of the names that I think are just off the list. Also got to mention Cam McKell out of Statesboro. Really impressed with that young man and his game. He's been working a lot at offense and defenses for all the camps that he's been around right now. Guys, that is all of your weekly slides here on Before the Hedges. And now, another thing we try to do here in this brand new vibe, this brand new edition in 2023 for Before the Hedges, now's the time. We'll be right back, and we'll join you guys live from our Woodstock Bureau. We'll join you guys live. If you got a question, drop it here right now. Tell me all about it. It's time to go live on Before the Hedges. What's up, everybody? Jeff Sentell joining you back live here on Before the Hedges. Kind of busy news day. You see a couple things to cover. As news that probably broke about 15 to 20 minutes ago. Does not come as a surprise to me. If you guys go to DawgNation.com, you can see the recent decommitment from four-star Maryland running back Tovani Mazel. They call him the boogeyman. He decommits. He was the 9th highest rated commitment in Georgia class. Hadn't seen him at Sanford Stadium since he committed back in August of 2022. He had fallen from the nation's number 5 running back to the nation's number 18 running back. And really, the way I kind of looked at things is when Georgia picked up the commitment of Dwight Phillips, the speedster, the lightning type back early in 2023, that was basically a duplication of the skill set with Tovani Mazel, another speed back. Georgia likely always tries to pair a thunder and lightning type back. So Georgia, at least the way I was looking at it, was likely to go after a bigger back, a thunder back in the class of 2023 after the Phillips commitment. Phillips is in state. Phillips is as fast as any football player can get. 10.43 in the 100. We've written about him. We've talked about him a lot, and we've kind of hinted a couple times on Before the Hedges of late that we were expecting to see something happen at the running back position. Was probably only a matter of time there. Other things happening today. Before I get to your questions, I'll be looking on the DawgNation homepage. I'll be looking on Facebook. I'll be looking on YouTube as well. Recent crystal ball popped up from an On3 reporter, covers the Alabama beat. He has put in a crystal ball or a forecast prediction. I think that's what that service goes by, for 5-star Alabama linebacker DeMarcus Riddick. That's out of Chilton County High School in Clanton, Alabama. That's somewhere in between Montgomery and Auburn in Alabama. Nation's number 1 linebacker currently one of the 3 5-star commitments in Georgia's 2024 class. Currently, there's a thought out there from a gentleman that covers Alabama that he expects DeMarcus Riddick to flip at linebacker in the 2024 class. A couple things going on there I wanted to make note of. Let me see. Lots of things going on. Let's see. Let me hop on, trying to check things. How's everybody doing tonight, by the way? First of all, I wanted to make sure you guys know this. Hope you guys enjoyed the program. Hope you guys enjoyed the interview with Justin Greene. Hope that wasn't too much LSU for everybody. Hope everybody's doing great tonight as well. And I also want everybody to check out something to check out on the DawgNation homepage today. Is we kicked off our DawgNation Next Generation series. That's where we kind of go with like really in-depth, deep profiles on the new members of the new freshman members of the team in the 2023 class. We tried our best, put our keyboard to work, tried to tell the story of 5-star offensive tackle Monroe Freeling. Learned a lot about yoga, learned a lot about a lot of other things. Monroe Freeling, the nation's number one tackle, according to On3.com, at least their peer rating. And he was a 5-star on both 24/7 Sports Composite and the On3 industry ranking. Monroe was one of those rare types that once he started playing from a smaller school level and jumped into the bigger pond, his rankings actually went up. You saw him go from maybe a mid-60s, mid-50s type prospect to a clear 5-star for both services, as well as being a top 10 player for On3.com. Dylan Raiola. We've covered a lot of that stuff in the show so far. Also, KJ Bolden, also Jeremiah Smith, the Ohio State commitment. How many of you guys got a chance to read the Monroe Freeling profile tonight on DawgNation.com? Tom Lavelle, I got you, man. Randy Hall, technical difficulties. Suzanne Mines, Tom Lavelle. Charlie Matthews with a proclamation that the Dogs are not getting Dylan Raiola. Sonia Prescott wanting to see Peaches. I'm sure Peaches appreciates you for that. James Crump, I kind of agree with your thoughts there. If Georgia misses on Dylan Raiola, they will not get Jeremiah Smith. James Crump has the same thing. Marshall Fleming, thanks for reading. Tell you what, man, I never thought I would ever write a story about a 300-pound tackle and yoga and all those positions. But that's a unique young player, as I tried to articulate that. I kind of kidded myself. I kind of got real tickled, to use a Southern term, as I was having a conversation with a lineman about yoga. And I thought to myself, what world am I living in when I'm talking to a 5-star offensive tackle about the pigeon, downward dog, child's pose, and everything else like that? We got any yoga fans out there? Any yoga enthusiasts out there as well? Brian Marcoulier, great question. I tell you what, DeMarcus Riddick, actually, if you're looking for a way that Georgia can actually improve their chances with Sammy Brown, I think a flip by DeMarcus Riddick to Alabama would certainly do that. Let's see what's going on with everybody else. Let me try the DawgNation homepage. Got some folks on the DawgNation homepage. Thanks everybody for watching. Randy Hall has a question. Who's the better player, Mike Matthews or Caleb Downs? Wow, better player. Got to say Caleb Downs there, Randy. Caleb is probably the best safety prospect I've ever seen. Another question from Randy Hall. How many silent commitments? Randy Hall's talking about offensive lineman Fletcher Westfall and also offensive lineman Mr. Tolliver out of Cartersville High School in Cartersville. Those silent commitments are very tricky because sometimes you can have a silent decommitment as well. Check to see what's going on. Thanks everybody for watching on YouTube. You guys are next. Randy Payne says, "Go Dogs" from Tifton, Georgia. He's got 3 for 23 out there. Cy Morgan, thank you for that. Army Dog, sorry we lost you. Guatemala Mike, we lost you for a little bit there as well. Foster Moss, yeah, we have a story up there on. We have a story right there as well on DawgNation.com about the Tavani Boogeyman Mizell. And I tell you what, guys, I could not resist on deadline writing really fast that something like, considering the news from the Boogeyman, that the Devil will not be going down to Georgia from Maryland. Uncle Glenn Hartley, how are you? Cody Ledoux says he has his prognosticator, his crystal ball says the odds of flipping a wide receiver from Ohio State and Heartline are crazy. Rhett Womack is a big DeMello Jones fan as well. Cody Tony Wilson has a question. Cody, his sophomore film was excellent. Junior film not as good for reasons probably don't need to go into right there, but Cody, he's very talented. He can touch every spot on the field, 6'3", 210 pounds, can make every throw, can make those off-platform throws as well. I think if you put Raiola with a lot of classes over the last few years, he would probably be the number 1 quarterback in a lot of years. The talent is that strong. Curtelius Williams, if he's wants to know about Ryan Puglisi's ranking. I think it's going to keep rising, especially as more people see him in the national events and they see him in the Elite 11 and more 7-on-7s there as well. Guys, we can see our audio keeps popping in and out. Hopefully you guys were able to catch a lot of the show. Hope you guys liked the show tonight. And while we still got you guys on and thriving, I'm just going to say, guys, appreciate you joining us. That's been another edition of Before the Hedges here on DawgNation. I'm Jeff Sentell. That's been your intel. Everybody be well, and we'll see you guys again later on the pages of DawgNation.com. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out tonight. You guys have yourself a good week.